The Ashworth Estate buzzed with the controlled chaos of party preparations. Professional event planners scurried about, transforming the already opulent garden into a 6-year-old's fantasy playground. Everything had to be perfect for young Alexander's birthday, or so his paternal grandparents kept announcing to anyone within earshot. I adjusted my simple linen dress, Prada's latest, though you'd only know it if you really understood fashion, and watched the scene unfold. My daughter Sarah had warned me about the Ashworth's particular way of doing things, but seeing it in person was something else entirely. You. Yes, you. Margaret Ashworth's voice cut through the morning air like an expensive knife. The tables need to be coordinated with the color scheme. Surely the agency explained this. It took me a moment to realize she was addressing me. I touched the jade pendant at my neck, the same one I'd worn when signing my first billion-dollar contract. "I'm out with the agency," I said quietly. "Oh," she gave me a dismissive once-over. "Kitchen staff, then." "Either way, the tables need arranging. Blue linens for boys, pink for girls. Try to keep up." Behind her, my daughter Sarah appeared, her face flushing with anger. I gave her a subtle head shake. After 30 years of building an empire from nothing, I learned that sometimes the best strategy was to let people reveal themselves fully. "Mother, that's not—" Sarah started. "Sarah, darling," Margaret cut her off. "The caterers need approval on the menu, though I've already taken the liberty of adjusting it. All that ethnic food you suggested, well, it's hardly appropriate for Alexander's friends, is it?" I bit back a smile, thinking of the Michelin-starred restaurants I owned across 3 continents. "What did you change?" "Not that it's any of your concern," Margaret sniffed, still not really looking at me, "but we're going with proper food. Mini quiches, cucumber sandwiches, civilized choices." "How fascinating," I murmured, watching her scroll through her phone. "The latest model, running on chips my company designed. And the cake. European fondant, of course. None of that grocery store nonsense Sarah originally suggested." She finally glanced up. "Why are you still standing here? Those tables won't arrange themselves." "Mom," Sarah tried again. "Please let me." "It's fine, sweetheart," I smiled. "I'm actually quite good at arranging things. Companies, investments, tables." The last part was lost on Margaret, who had already turned away to berate a flower arranger about the wrong shade of blue in the hydrangeas. Richard Ashworth, Margaret's husband and self-proclaimed captain of industry, though his company had been steadily losing market share for years, strode over. "Sarah, we need to discuss Alexander's trust fund. Your mother-in-law and I feel the current management is too conservative." "The fund my mother set up." Sarah's voice had an edge to it. "Yes, well," he waved dismissively, "while we appreciate the gesture, it's hardly substantial compared to what we can offer. Speaking of help," he turned to me, "the guest list is on that clipboard. Start checking names as people arrive." I picked up the clipboard, scanning the names. CEOs, tech investors, venture capitalists, all carefully curated to impress. All, ironically, people I regularly met in boardrooms rather than birthday parties. Richard, Sarah's patience was clearly wearing thin. "That's not—" "Sarah, darling." Her husband Michael hurried over, our grandson Alexander perched on his shoulders. "Mom's looking for you." "Something about the party favors?" "Actually," Sarah squared her shoulders, "I need to tell them about Grammy Way." Alexander squealed, squirming to get down. He launched himself at me, nearly knocking the clipboard from my hands. "You came early." Margaret and Richard froze. Michael looked like he wanted to sink into the perfectly manicured lawn. "Of course I did. Little dragon," I scooped him up. "I wouldn't miss helping with your special day." "Did you bring it?" he whispered loudly. "The special present." "Alexander," Margaret cut in sharply, "this is hardly appropriate. The staff shouldn't—" She stopped abruptly, realization dawning. "Staff shouldn't, you called her?" "Grammy Way." Alexander nodded seriously. "She makes the best phones. My friends all have them. And she lets me play in her big building with all the robots." Richard's face had gone an interesting shade of purple. Your Grammy Way." "Why, Chin?" I finally introduced myself properly, shifting Alexander to my hip. "Though you might know me better as the CEO of Chen Technologies, or perhaps as the person who just acquired controlling interest in your company's main competitor." The clipboard slipped from Margaret's manicured fingers. "That's right," Sarah said quietly, "my mother." The help you've been ordering around all morning? She's the one who set up Alexander's $100 million trust fund. The one you called hardly substantial. The silence that followed was broken only by Alexander's happy chatter about the robots in my R&D lab. Margaret Ashworth's perfect Botox couldn't quite hide her horror, while Richard seemed to be having trouble breathing. But Margaret gestured helplessly at my simple dress. Asian, female, not dripping in obvious wealth. I adjusted Alexander on my hip. Tell me, which of those things made you assume I was the help? Mom, Michael stepped forward, looking mortified. I am so sorry. I should have said something when they started. It's fine, I assured him. Though perhaps now would be a good time to tell them about the other surprise. Sarah's smile was razor sharp. Oh yes. Mom, would you like to do the honors? Grammy's house is so big, Alexander announced before I could speak. We can all live there together. Richard found his voice. What is he talking about? Well, I said mildly, when Oakwood Estates came up for sale last month, it seemed like the perfect opportunity. The mansion has enough room for Sarah and Michael's family, plus a separate wing for me when I'm not traveling. Oakwood Estates. Margaret's voice rose an octave. But that's next door to us. Actually, Sarah added, it's the entire gated community, isn't it, Mom? Not just the mansion. I nodded. The investment opportunity was too good to pass up. Though I might need to make some changes to the Homeowners Association leadership. I hear they've been rather discriminatory in their membership policies. Richard swayed slightly. He was on that leadership board, and we both knew about the unofficial policies that had kept out certain types of residents. But we've lived here for generations, Margaret protested. The Ashworths were founding members. And now the Chin family will be too, I said simply. Unless, of course, you have objections to having neighbors who look like me. Michael cleared his throat. We're moving in next week. Sarah and I thought it would be good for Alexander to be closer to both his grandmothers. Both? Margaret's voice was faint. But the social committees, the country club. Of that reminds me, I shifted Alexander to my other hip. I should mention that Chen Technologies' pension fund just acquired a controlling interest in the country club. We'll be making some changes there too, more inclusive membership policies, to start. Richard's face had gone from purple to gray. The club has certain standards. Yes, I agreed. And those standards are about to change, just like the seating arrangement at this party. I gestured to the tables I was supposed to have been setting up. Alexander, sweetheart, how would you like to help Grammy rearrange things? I'm thinking one big table where everyone sits together. No more kids' table, he asked hopefully. No more any tables, Sarah confirmed. No more artificial divisions of any kind. Margaret made one last attempt. But the social hierarchy, the proper order of things, is changing, I finished for her. Just like it changed when a young immigrant woman with a computer science degree decided she could compete with the tech giants. Just like it changed when that woman's daughter married your son, despite your initial reservations. We didn't know, Richard said weakly. That's the problem. Sarah's voice was firm. You didn't bother to know. You just assumed. About Mom, about our cultural heritage, about everything that didn't fit your narrow view of proper. But now you do know. I set Alexander down gently. So we have two choices. You can continue clinging to your outdated prejudices, in which case you'll find your social and business circles becoming increasingly limited. Or, Margaret whispered. Or you can join us at one big table, I smiled, where your grandson can grow up proud of all his heritage, not just the parts you deem acceptable. Alexander tugged at Margaret's designer skirt. Grandma Ashworth, want to see the robots in Grammy Y's lab? They're so cool. And she lets me help program them. Something shifted in Margaret's face as she looked down at her grandson. Perhaps it was the genuine excitement in his voice or the way he moved easily between his two worlds. He's learning programming, she asked softly. Among other things, I nodded. He's quite talented. Like his father, he has a gift for bridging different worlds. Michael put his arm around Sarah. That's what we're hoping for with the move. A chance for Alexander to have the best of both his heritages, both his families. Richard looked at the clipboard he tried to hand me earlier, then at his grandson. Perhaps we could start by rearranging these tables. The transformation of Alexander's birthday party became a metaphor for something larger. As we rearranged tables, Margaret Ashworth reluctantly helping under Alexander's enthusiastic direction, the carefully constructed barriers of their social world began to crumble. "Grammy Way," Alexander called out, "can we use the hologram thing? Like in your office?" I pulled out my phone, a prototype not yet on the market, and projected a 3D layout of the garden. The other party planners stopped to stare as virtual tables and decorations floated in the air. That's remarkable," Richard said, his business instincts finally overriding his prejudices. "Your company developed this?" "Last year," I nodded. Though the real breakthrough was Alexander's suggestion about the color interface. "Wasn't it, little dragon?" "I made it rainbow," he announced proudly. "Grammy Way says the best ideas come from seeing all the colors." Margaret watched her grandson manipulate the hologram with practiced ease. "He really does understand the technology, doesn't he?" "He understands a lot of things," Sarah said quietly, "including why his grandparents never wanted to visit Grammy Y's house, or why we never displayed Chinese New Year photos at family events." The weight of years of subtle exclusion hung in the air. Michael squeezed his mother's shoulder. "Mom, Dad, this is your chance to choose differently." "The party starts in an hour," I noted, checking my watch, a sophisticated piece of tech disguised as a simple timepiece. Just enough time to remake this into what it should have been all along, a celebration of Alexander's complete heritage. "But the guests," Margaret began. "Will see exactly who we are," Sarah finished firmly. "All of us." As if on cue, the caterers emerged with questions about the menu. Margaret started to step forward with her usual controlling manner, then hesitated. "Perhaps," she looked at me uncertainly, "perhaps we could incorporate some of those original suggestions, the ones I dismissed." Within the hour, the garden had transformed. Traditional Chinese lanterns hung alongside classic party decorations. The menu featured a sophisticated fusion of East and West, and most importantly, one long table stretched through the garden with no artificial divisions of any kind. "It's perfect," Alexander declared, proudly wearing the traditional Chinese jacket I brought him over his party clothes. The guests began arriving, CEOs, venture capitalists, and social elites. Many did double takes when they realized who I was. More than a few had sat across from me in boardrooms or sought investments from my firm. "Wai Chen," one tech mogul exclaimed. "The Wai Chen? Richard, you never mentioned your grandson's other grandmother was." "Was what?" I asked mildly, enjoying Richard's discomfort. "Capable of arranging tables." Margaret, to her credit, seemed to be trying. She stumbled through introducing me to her social circle, each revelation of my actual identity causing ripples of reaction. "You'll all be hearing more about Chen Technologies," I announced to the gathered guests. "We're expanding our presence in this community, starting with making sure it's truly a community, open to everyone with the talent and drive to succeed." "Grammy Way." Alexander tugged at my dress. "Show them the surprise." With a smile, I activated another hologram, this one transforming the garden into a magical space where dragons danced through the air and traditional Chinese symbols merged with modern technology. "This is the future," I told the awestruck crowd. "Not just of technology, but of society, a world where we celebrate all of who we are." Later, as the party wound down, Margaret approached me holding a plate of dumplings. "These are quite extraordinary." "My mother's recipe," I said. "The same ones I made while coding my first startup in a garage." She was quiet for a moment. "We've been so wrong for so long." "Yes," I agreed simply, "but Alexander deserves better than our old prejudices, so we'll learn to do better." "Starting with Tuesday night dinners?" she asked hesitantly. "At your new home." Alexander keeps talking about the kitchen that cooks by itself. I smiled, watching my grandson teach his friends to use chopsticks while virtual butterflies danced around them. Dinner would be good. Though fair warning, my AI chef is programmed to make both quiche and dim sum. "Perhaps," Margaret said slowly, "it's time I learned to appreciate both." And there, in a garden where East met West and old money met new innovation, a different kind of merger began. One measured not in dollars or social status, but in the joy of a little boy who could finally celebrate all parts of who he was.